The bravery that Farrah Fawcett displayed in the last few months of her life. We saw her battle with cancer firsthand in a documentary shot by her longtime, very close friend, Alana Stewart, who traveled the world alongside Fawcett searching for a cure. Well, now Alana Stewart is sharing her memories right out of her own diaries in this new book, My Journey with Farrah, a story of life, love, and friendship. And she is joining us tonight to tell us some of her stories. And tell us first how you first found out that Farrah had cancer. She didn't tell you, did she?
I hadn't heard yet. I was with my daughter, Kimberly, and actually we were out of the country, and my daughter came in and said, "Mom, does Farrah have cancer?" And I said, "Talking about?" And I said, "Where did you hear that?" And she said, "On the internet." And I said, "No, it's ridiculous." But I went right to the phone to call her just to make sure, and she took a long time to come to the telephone. And my heart sank because I knew that something was wrong. And when she answered, I asked her if she was okay. And she started to cry and said no. And she told me. And I couldn't believe it. She was the last person in the world I or anyone else would have ever thought would get cancer. I mean, she was so beautiful and strong and healthy. And she seemed indestructible.
You were so close to her and so close to Ryan O'Neal. So much has been written about them, about their 30-year partnership. What was the relationship like, and do you think he truly was devoted to her?
I believe the two of them were devoted to each other. I mean, through 30 years of ups and downs, and it was a volatile relationship, and there were times they weren't together, but they always stayed in touch. They always loved each other, and I kind of always knew they'd end up together.
Really?
Yeah, I really did. And he did ask her to marry him toward the end, and she did say yes. And if she had lived, I think they would have gotten married.
Farrah, obviously a celebrity, and frankly more than that. I mean, you could say an icon, really. She was. This book, though, is more of a universal story about fighting cancer, isn't it?
It's about fighting cancer, and it's a tribute to her and her battle and her courage and her inspiration. But it's also a tribute to friendship. You know, it's a tribute to our friendship, and it's a tribute to the bond between two women going on this journey together, and all of the life's lessons that I learned through this journey.
And you didn't sugarcoat things in this book. I mean, you didn't. You made a point of really putting it all out there.
Well, I didn't, because Farrah didn't want to sugarcoat things in the documentary. I mean, she was the one that made me film things that I was squeamish about filming, or that I thought was, you know, sometimes I'd think it was too invasive, and she'd go, "No, film it, because this is what cancer's like. You know, people need to know this." And if she was going to do it, she was going to go all the way, you know?
She saw herself as kind of a role model for many cancer victims.
Well, because so many people wrote her letters and said, "Thank you for your courage and your inspiration." And she also talked about her cancer, anal cancer, which was a cancer that a lot of people were kind of embarrassed to talk about. And she got so many letters from women in particular that would say, "Thank you for talking about this, because now I don't feel ashamed. I have the kind of cancer that Farrah Fawcett has."
You're also really honest in this book about sort of what you struggled with and how you talk about this, how you talk to someone who has cancer.
Well, I think anyone who is friends with, or a parent of, or a loved one, a mate of anyone struggling with a terminal disease, whether it be cancer or anything else, I think that you go through a whole emotional roller coaster yourself, and there's a lot of uncertainty. I mean, there were times that I was terrified, I was frightened, I was uncertain, I didn't know if I was doing the right thing or saying the right thing, and yet you have to be strong for that person. I mean, Farrah was very strong and very determined and had incredible courage, and she kind of brought out my courage. I mean, I found an inner strength that I never knew I had. You know, I used to like faint at the sight of a hangnail, and I found this incredible strength within me that I think, you know, comes from a higher power.
Finally, I just got to ask you, because one of the things I loved is you write a lot about food in this book. I mean, you guys spend a lot of time cooking together, and I think a lot of us think, oh, they're Hollywood stars. They've got cooks and chefs, and it was like, no, you were in the kitchen a lot.
No, well, neither one of us had cooks or chefs. We love to cook, and we're both from Texas, and I think that's how we bonded in the first place. And there's nothing that made us happier than staying home on Christmas Eve making pecan pies and or going to some Tex-Mex joint and having Tex-Mex food. And we truly did love to eat, and we love to cook.
It's a fascinating read. Alana Stewart, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your stories with us.
Thank you so much.
All right, we'll be right back.